What is your mission?
To stop the war.
What war?
The war to end all wars.
Weapons far deadlier than you can ever imagine.
The war can be ours.
Whoever you are in more danger than you think.
I cannot stand by while innocent lives are lost.
Now, there's a bit of information that you heard just now in the movie, which is the war to end all wars. Let's talk about World War One. World War One, as you can see here from Wikipedia, was first known as the First World War, or the Great War, or the War to End All Wars. It was a global war originating in Europe that lasted from the 28th of July 1914 to the 11th of November 1918. More than 70 million military personnel, including 60 million Europeans, were mobilized in one of the largest wars in history. Over 9 million combatants and 7 million civilians died as a result of the war, including victims of a number of genocides. A casualty rate exacerbated by the belligerents, technological and industrial sophistication, and tactical stalemate caused by grueling trench warfare. It was one of the deadliest conflicts in history and paved the way for major political changes, including revolutions in many of the nations involved, and to World War II 21 years later. Now, when therefore Steve Trevor said the war to end all wars, that actually was true. And from another trailer, we heard that the war would just continue going. It would never end. And this actually was the case with World War One. It almost never ended. It was just very interesting how the war actually ended. But it really started off in Austria. The assassination of the Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria is what caused this whole entire war to start. Now, this war involved the Allies, which were basically the Russian Empire, the French Empire, and the United Kingdom, or Great Britain and Ireland. And then some other countries joined in later. They were going against Germany and Austria, Hungary. Now, in the end of the day, Italy was in between the two countries, but Italy eventually joined the Allies. Now, the Ottoman Empire and Bulgaria, they joined Austria and Germany, and the United States and Japan, they joined France, Russia, and UK. It's very interesting that World War II was basically the same sort of participants. Austria, Hungary, and Germany were against, again, the world, basically. So it's a very interesting sort of potion. What's very interesting also is some of the main characters were actually historical characters as well. And I found this to be very interesting in that the war actually ended because of Russia's mobilization, and also because of America's input into that war, as well as the key movement of other countries like England and France. So that what eventually happened was there was a restructuring of the world because of that. The United Nations came as a result of World War II, but there was an alliance that was trying to be formed, which was known as, let me see here, it's somewhere below here. During the Paris Peace Conference in 1919, the Big Four, Britain, France, United States, and Italy, imposed their terms in a series of treaties. The League of Nations, that was what it was called, was formed, and the aim of preventing any repetition of such a conflict, but the effort failed. Economic depression, renewed nationalization, and weakened successor states, and feelings of humiliation, particularly in Germany, eventually contributed to World War II. So this League of Nations is something like the United Nations. The United Nations now was formed post-World War II. But before that, they had a League of Nations after World War I. And it's interesting that history repeated itself. Germany rose up again and tried to conquer the world, and instead they were destroyed, and then we had the United Nations formed. Now, for more details about World War I and the different players in there and individual people, you can do a much more thorough study online. But I just wanted to give you a general sketch of World War I. Very, very sketchy sketch. I haven't given you really a lot of details. But suffice it to say that for those people who didn't know, the Germans once again were involved in World War I, and the Austrians. That's how it started off. There were a lot of other participants that took part in World War I, but at the end of the day, Germany was one of the enemies of the Allied forces in World War I, as in World War II. So I hope you guys know that. On that note, you guys have a great one.